6:43 coming up towards 6:44 in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, let's focus on an issue that is bound to get your attention: racism. Because youth standing up against racism is the theme of this year's observance of the United Nations International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. The day is observed annually on March 21st. It would have been on Sunday. It's done via anti-discrimination campaigns and rally, though most activities would have been conducted virtually as a result of the COVID-19 global pandemic. Well, locally, the Equal Opportunity Commission is on a media tour to raise awareness and make the public more knowledgeable of their rights as citizens. What is the EOC's perspective on discrimination as it relates to Trinidad and Tobago on the basis of race? Well, we are joined, as we were a couple of weeks ago, by Ian Roach, Chairman of the Equal Opportunity Commission. Mr. Roach, very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us once again.
Good morning, President Mohammed. Thank you very much for having me, and good morning to the listening public.
As far as where we are positioned in Trinidad and Tobago when it comes to the issue of discrimination on the basis of race or racial discrimination, where would you place us?
I'll place us in an unhealthy state of affairs. In a nutshell, I'll place us in a very unhealthy state of affairs because as much as Trinidad is viewed by many to be a place of equal opportunity and racial harmony, there still racial discrimination rears its head too often, and it is very detrimental to the society and its productivity and the type of nation that we have the potential to be, one that where according to the Constitution every equal race will find an equal place. I mean, we are striving to be an example not only in the Caribbean, to the world, to be really a rainbow nation of equality and non-discriminative and discriminatory practices.
And as far as in your capacity as chairman of the EEOC, what is your message? What are you urging the nation to be doing, or especially the young people, because that is the theme for this year's UN observance, youth standing up against racism. What is your message essentially?
My message, first of all, to the youth is that the youth need to take control of their future. They need to take control and create the type of society and influence the change in the society to be what they want it to be. And I think among young people, there's a great hope because young people tend to be more open-minded than adults. They tend to be more energetic, and they tend to be more prone to having change, accepting change. And this is where we are encouraging young people to stand up and take control of their future. Just don't leave it to those who have gone before, those who may have made a good contribution, but then there are many who have dropped the battle. They need to pick it up and continue and create the type of environment, the type of life, the type of society that they will really want to live in the 21st century and moving forward. So I think a lot of emphasis where the Equal Opportunity Commission is concerned, moving forward, is going to be piloted in educating the youth as to their rights, to finding commonalities among themselves, because my experience with youth, dealing with the youth that I engage with, especially in the sporting fraternity, they are not as prone and easily susceptible to racial discrimination as your parents may have been. They are more open-minded in a very generous way, in seeing people based on their characters and your character and your conduct, as opposed to the limited identity that we tend to place that creates and festers racism, the differences in each other.
So what is the EOC doing in that regard to capitalize on that? And we know there are many limitations based on COVID-19. There are limitations anyway based on our economic situation as to the availability of the EOC to have the sort of resources to do a widespread effective campaign. What can you do in the prevailing circumstances to capitalize on young people who may not be as inclined towards racist behavior than the older generations? What are you doing in that regard?
Well, what we have, but first of all, like having these frequent media interviews, using social media, where young people tend to be more geared towards. They are more attracted to social media. They use it, as a tool in communicating, in socializing. So we have been, trying to maximize our inputs in that regard. Also, we are hoping to have more sessions dealing with schools, starting from very, kindergarten, primary schools, secondary schools, in our outreach programs, trying to have youth groups be part as stakeholders and, be a part of the change that we are looking to have, and to solicit their views on how they believe that discrimination can be brought to an end, and just getting their views and making them feel relevant and be a part of what we are trying to promote at the EOC, what our mandate is. Make them believe that they have a significant role to play, and they do have a significant role to play. So we're going to be reaching out in various campaigns where youth are usually more captured in, where they frequent social groups, how they socialize. All these types of things we are trying to get. And as a matter of fact, I think one of the things that we are hoping to do is to probably have much younger people involved in the EOC as staff members as well.
And as we talk about this issue of racial discrimination, I'm actually watching page 9 of the Express today, because their big question in the comment section from Facebook readers and online readers: do you think Trinidad and Tobago is a racist society? I haven't been able to gauge the responses, but would it be correct to say that people who feel discriminated in one way or the other, whether it has to do with economic opportunities, whether it has to do with promotion, whether it has to do with for any reason, they feel discriminated in some way, that one of the first points we go to as human beings in this country is the issue of race?
Sorry, what was it? Hello?
Yes, are you hearing me?
Yeah, no, I missed some of what you said. The question was?
Okay, my apologies for the long-winded question. Basically what I was trying to say is that when people feel discriminated against for whatever reason,
yes,
because of the nature of our society, do we feel that I'm being discriminated because of race? Is that a first port of call when it comes to the issue of discrimination in Trinidad and Tobago?
Unfortunately, yes. That is in fact so, because the EOC did a survey back in 2017, and in 2017 the survey said that discrimination on the basis of ethnicity and race was perceived to be the most prevalent form of discrimination in Trinidad and Tobago. This was consistent also with the finding of the Maury Caribbean Opinion Survey done in 2011. In 2017, it was followed by discrimination on the basis of political views and discrimination on the basis of class status, income, and occupation. So it occupies a very prominent position in discriminatory practices in Trinidad and Tobago, unfortunately. And I think a lot of, as I say, racism. I've said before on this program that racism is based a lot in ignorance and fear and lack of exposure, I think, as well. If people could be focused more on the similarities of each other as opposed to the differences. There are more commonalities than there are differences in people. First of all, like I said in the last occasion, we are human beings. Secondly, we are Trinidadian and Tobagonians. And thirdly, we just want to treat each other as we ought to be treated. And it's as simple as it may sound. I mean, that is how I operate. When I see you, I don't see body parts to begin with as well, which is another form of discrimination. People see body parts, hence the sexual harassment, all these things that come about. See a human being for what he or she is worth. Just see it as a human being, and you will do instinctively the right thing. If you see that person as you see yourself, you don't need any rules, any ethics, any morality. You will do the right thing because you want to treat yourself. So something is wrong with you fundamentally, mentally or otherwise. You will do and treat that person as you would want to be treated, which will be with love, consideration, tenderness, compassion. Those are the things that's how you will reach out to another human being.
But Mr. Roach, if you would allow me to ask the question, do we also, to switch it around, do we sometimes see race where there's none? For example, that let's say you apply for a job and you weren't hired. You know why they didn't hire me? Because I is so-and-so and the other fella is a so-and-so and that they didn't hire me. When really you weren't hired because you weren't qualified. Do we use race as a fail-safe, as a fallback position? They didn't hire me because I is a Indian, why is a what and whatever?
President, you asked me some people questions here this morning, which is true. I think you know the answer better than me. Unfortunately, that is what happens all the time. Rather than seek competence, because it is the most vulnerable, the most obvious, the weakest way to go when you are not up to scratch. So you fall back on that. It's just like in most societies, when societies start to experience economic hardship and difficulties, the first thing is they tend to become very xenophobic, right? So we go back to that flaw in the human psyche, which is race-based in a very detrimental way to all of us, the perpetrator as well as the victim. So yes, your question is in fact unfortunately true.
So let me finish off by asking you this question then. Is it an impossibility, this UN goal, the elimination of racial discrimination? Because correct me if I'm wrong, no matter what you do, no matter how high your level of education and your worldview, there almost always seems to be somebody somewhere who is either actively practicing racial discrimination or believes that they're a victim of racial discrimination. So it's complete elimination and impossibility.
I always want to remain hopeful. I would have to say I have to be hopeful. It will seem it's a task that is going to be a continuous one in human existence, unfortunately, but it is something that we cannot give up hope on. We have to be hopeful, and as I said sometime before, what President Mandela did say one time, until something is done, it seems impossible. But I guess the more we start to draw attention to our commonalities, the more we change our hearts and minds. Laws cannot do it alone. Laws, the amount of laws and regulations and so on, conventions we have, would not do it. What has to be done is that people have to change their hearts and their minds towards each other. It has to start in the home, in the family, among how you treat your brothers, your sisters, your parents, how you treat your neighbors. In really, those things will help to go a long way. We have to be our brothers and sisters keeper to each other. And then there will be hope. We just can't give up, but we have to continue trudging along as long there is life.
I hear you on that, Mr. Roach. And as a lawyer yourself, you would know about the issue of laws and the effectiveness of laws in that regard. We want to thank you very much for taking the time and again highlighting this very relevant issue for us here in Trinidad and Tobago, the issue of race and racial discrimination, and hanging everything on the issue of race, whatever the issue might be. Thank you very much again for taking the time to be with us.
And thank you very much again for hosting me. Thank you very much.
Ian Roach, Chairman of the Equal Opportunity Commission, with us here this morning at 6:56 in Trinidad and Tobago. And as we head to the top of the hour, here's an image from Zalina Suklal Singh of Springvale in Claxton Bay. Looks like the very, is it Bougainvillea? Yeah, it might be. And now for this image submitted by a viewer, when was the last time you've seen one of these radios? Well, I used to sit down by my grandfather on Don Miguel Road, listening to the whole world, and I eventually got a shortwave radio from my father, a newer one, but it was something fascinating. So for those of you who have a tabanka for the old days, whether good old days or bad old days, this might help in that regard, or make the tabanka worse for that matter, as we go to the top of the hour.